Welcome to the red carpet, where ordinary people share extraordinary stories. And today we have got Jackie Pearl on the show. Jackie is a wife, she's a sister, she is a daughter, she is an aunt, and she is a barber. Jackie, welcome.
Thank you.
Great for you to be on the show today.
Yeah, well, I've certainly got an extraordinary story.
We can't wait to hear it. But you know what? I've done my research and I found that in 2015, there was only 10% of females that were barbers. And actually, now I know it's roughly about 23%. And that's good news to me because, the more women we can get in such professions, the better. But, it kind of like startled me to know that you're a barber. And I just really want to know what got you into barbering.
Well, there's a story about how I got into barbering, but before we go into that, it's interesting that you say about 10% of the women. When I was 16, 17, and I first went to college, I'd gone along to learn hairdressing, be it ladies' hairdressing. It was a hairdressing and barbering course, but I met a woman there, and I can still picture her now. And she only wanted to be a barber, nothing else. And I found that strange.
Mhm.
I found that strange then
Mm.
because it was unusual.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to know, to think back now, that became my passion.
Wow.
Barbering became my passion. And as the years have gone on, especially I'd say the last 15 years, to say you're a barber, the reaction normally is, oh yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But to me, it's just the most normal thing in the world. Yeah. So, but I got into barbering. I'd always wanted to be a policewoman, not interested in anything else.
It's interesting.
I didn't want to do anything girly. And bear in mind, it wasn't barbering. Initially, it was hairdressing that I'd gone into,
Right.
but I'd wanted to be a policewoman, went along to a careers evening and spoke to the man who was there representing the police. And one of his questions was, how would I feel about going out to accidents where, people have been killed, people have been really, really injured. And as much as I love people and I'm a caring person, I knew there and then, boom, I couldn't do it. I'm terrified of blood, always been so squeamish. And there and then, that put an end to me thinking I could be a policewoman. My mum had always wanted my sister and I, well, she would have liked us to. We were never pushed into anything, but she'd wanted to be a sewing machinist or a hairdresser. And that's what she'd have liked for us. So then I thought, okay, I'll go off and see about hairdressing college. And I went in, seen, it was all in the same evening, and listened to the presentation. And then when I came out, I said, okay, Mum, that's what I'll do. I'll be a hairdresser. I'll go and do hairdressing. And it went from there.
Wow.
Went
Wow.
from there. Yeah.
That's really interesting. And you basically run your barbering at the moment from your home. And not only do you do barbering, I guess it's been successful for you over the years. Now you also do hair loss.
Yeah.
And coming from the hair loss industry, because I also work with hair loss, but mainly focusing on the women's side of things.
Yeah.
When did you actually get into hair loss? Was it something that you just naturally fell into, or was there, did you think that there was a need or desire? Just can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah. In the beginning, it was quite a selfish reason.
Okay.
I've always loved what I've done, the barbering, but it would be long, long hours. Hard work, really hard work. And we earned a good wage, but I used to think that, wow, the ladies' hairdressers, they can earn in a couple of hours what we earn all day. And I thought, I'm going to find something where I can earn a bit more money. And then the hair systems just sort of fell into place. I'd seen someone who one day didn't have a very good head of hair, and then I've seen a picture on Facebook with this amazing head of hair. And that's why I thought, wow, I wonder. And that was when I learned that I'd never heard of hair systems.
Okay.
I'd never heard of hair systems until then. And that was where I started looking into it and decided I wanted to train in that. But at the beginning, it was for selfish reasons, I'd say. It was for me to earn more money.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of that where, and you know, especially, and I know, like, obviously, I'm not a hairdresser, although I do work with a lot of hairdressers. I find that the standard hairdressing, you've got to do a lot of cuts and blow dries to actually earn a decent living. So a lot of hairdressers moved into hair extensions and also hair loss for the same reason. But I think it's kind of like, when getting into it, you kind of see a different side to it. You see, you know, the compassion side, the confidence of the people that walk into your salon. Now, obviously, you've been doing this and it's been great, and you've got lots and lots of male clients that come in regularly, and this was going all the way up through till 2024. But then something happened in 2024 that made you put everything down, the thing that you love, the thing that you know, that you woke up in the morning and wanted to do. For some reason, you just decided to quit. Can you just share what happened then?
On the job, if you like, you get taught how to do them, but then along the way, you will come across many problems. And I did. Not always mistakes that I've made. In fact, I'm not trying to big myself up, but a lot of these things weren't things that I'd done wrong. They were things that will go wrong with the hair system. And in those days, I didn't always have the answer as to how to put it right. Or sometimes people would not know how to look after their hair system. And me being me, and at that time, I'd take it really, really personally, and I'd think, oh, it's what I've done. I've supplied a hair system that's not maybe good quality or whatever. I'd been to China to go and source my own hair systems. And at that time, it was the early days, so I didn't know how good the hair system was going to be, or how it would wash, or how long it would last before shedding, and all these different things. And I've always been a perfectionist, and that's not always a good thing. It can have you overthink everything, and I used to overthink every single thing to the point where it really affected my mental health. And I decided it was easier I wanted to stop doing them, but I was torn because I knew I was helping people. I was helping people with their confidence and their quality of life. But it was really affecting my quality of life then, because I would take everything personally when things would go wrong. So one day I cried out to the Lord, and I asked him if I was not meant to be doing the hair systems anymore. I don't know the exact words that I used, but I know that for sure that I said, send me another job. Just send me another job, because I wanted some sort of sign that I would have known it was from him. And the very same day, my sister phoned me up and asked me, did I want to go and work for her? So to me, there was no clearer answer. And no matter what, then I knew I was stopping. I knew people would be upset, but I was stopping. And that was it. I just laid everything down and explained to everyone why. People knew why. They knew that all the little problems had got to me.
Yeah.
And it was too much.
Yeah.
But the Lord took it away.
Yeah.
He sent me a new job.
Yeah. And I can relate to that, because it is a profession, really, especially when you are dealing with the confidence of other people, and and they kind of almost like put their confidence in your hands, and unfortunately attach their identity also to these hair systems. And if for whatever reason something goes wrong, it's almost as if their life has fallen apart and you're to blame for that happening.
That it's interesting that you've mentioned that, because I had guys come to see me who had been to other salons, and two men had actually had nervous breakdowns because of the way their system had been fitted. One of them I could fix for him. I fixed it for him. The other man, the way it had been fitted, it was beyond repair. It couldn't be fitted. And my fear was, I used to think, what if I did do that? What if I, no matter how well I think I've done it, what if when they get home, they have a nervous breakdown because, and it all sounds extreme, but I witnessed it. I witnessed it happen with when they'd had them fitted elsewhere. And I just found it was easier for me at that time to take myself away from it. So,
no, I totally understand and get that. But the good news is that you came back. So I'm really interested to learn, like, how did you get through the whole process? Like, how did you get to the point where you were able to actually pick up a hair system and start to do hair again?
When I was at my lowest point, I'll say, when I'd just stopped fitting, well, every single day you get suppliers send you WhatsApp messages to buy their product, and most of the time I'd never want to be rude, but I'd just scroll through them because I had a supplier. I had a good supplier, and I still have. But a man messaged me from China, and for some reason I just replied to him, and we got into a conversation, and I told him I was no longer fitting hair systems and what have you. And this man, he was lovely. He cared. I knew he cared, and whatever, all the reasons that I would say why I was stopping what have you, he made me realise it wasn't just me. And hair systems don't last forever and what have you. But apart from that, he showed me a new product that he had designed. Well, his technician had designed, and I'd never seen it before. But at the same time, I thought, oh, well, I'll never see it because I'm not doing them anymore. Anyway, him and I'd say, yeah, we're friends. He's on the other side of the world, but we're friends. And he helped me with so many different things. I'm not going to go into all that now, but when I would be doing the other job, which was sewing, it was great because I could just sew and chill and I think reflect on the different things that had happened. I'd always have scripture playing in the background, and Jesus was my backbone. He was there for me. He was my comforter, whatever, all the time. And I believe prayer and friends and my clients would always check in to see how I was, and some of them I'd ask them to go to other salons and they'd come round and they'd still want me to have a look at it if something wasn't right and what have you. And I'd think, I really miss this. I do really miss it. And then at one point, I was away from fitting hair systems for a few months. And then at one point I thought, I really would like to have to start doing them again. But again, I thought, well, I can't do everything. I'm sewing now. How do I do it all? So
Mm.
again, I had a word with Jesus. I was like, Jesus, I can't do everything. Take something away. Please take something away and show me what it is that I'm meant to be doing now. And again, that same day, my sister phoned me and said, sorry, Jack, we've got no work. And I was like, that's fine. That's fine. It's another answered prayer. So
Wow.
that is how I knew again it was right for me, but it was also what the Lord wanted for me.
Wow.
And that's how I got back into
Wow.
doing my hair systems again, and kept on. My clients all came back, and it's just completely different now. When I'm working now, I can have a laugh and a joke with all my clients, whereas before I wasn't enjoying it beforehand because I wasn't well, and
Wow.
I've healed,
Yeah.
completely healed, and ready for a new chapter.
Wow. I know there's a verse in the Bible that says, like, you know, your steps are ordered by the Lord. Like, do you feel like when you were going through that process that God was ordering your steps and He was showing you what to do and how to do things, and He was using that as a way and a mechanism to get you through?
He certainly was. There's no doubt about it. But it's only what's come about since, again, that I can see Him every step of the way in the process. And I actually thank Him now. I thank Him for what I went through, for allowing me to go through that. I thank Him for that. Because without that, we wouldn't have the next chapter.
Yes.
And certainly if I hadn't obeyed Him, we wouldn't have this next chapter.
Yeah.
So all glory to God.
Yeah. And I totally see what you're saying, because, like, you know, we've all got journeys that we go on, and I know in my life there's so many things that have happened, and at the time it seemed so painful, something that you just feel like you're never going to get out of it. And this is this my life? Is this what things are going to look like? And sometimes I've even said, God, why have you forsaken me? Because like, you know, things were good and then suddenly now they're not good, and where are you? And but looking back, it's like I've realized I've been even much more closer to God in those times than I am when things are seemingly going well. And, you know, and sometimes I actually ache to get back in a funny kind of way to that point, to that level of closeness, not the incidents and not the things that happen, but to that level of closeness. And I think that sometimes we can only get to a level of that level of closeness when we are 100% fully surrendered and fully in need, and fully understand that only He can, you know, kind of like fix our problems and provide our needs for us. And so to hear your story about
provide needs, He provides a job. Like a job fell out the sky.
Exactly. And some people might be listening to this going, oh, well, like, you know, I don't get this, I don't understand. But it's so heartwarming to me to know that, you know, when you walk through your journey, you can acknowledge God along the way. And you've also gone back to Him on numerous occasions and says, hey, God, you know, what about this and what about that? And He's answered you in such clear ways.
On my journey with the Lord, it's what I was taught, but it's also what I've learned for myself, that if we ask something and He gives us an answer, be obedient. I could have been offered that job and said, no, it's okay. I better carry on doing what I'm doing. But I didn't. So I thought, well, I've asked you. You've provided. Okay. No more hair systems. That's it. That's it. And no matter what anyone asked me, it was like, no, I can't. I can't do them anymore. The Lord has took it away. And again, the best thing that ever happened, because we've got a new journey now.
Wow. So now in 2025, you're back into working with hair systems. working, doing your barbering, you've got a full clientele, you're busy, and now you've also got a new business called Freedom Hair Systems.
Yep.
So tell me and tell us all about Freedom Hair.
Okay, Freedom Hair came about when I came back working. I wanted to try one of the new systems that Xander had designed. So I ordered one and I thought it was I just thought it was fabulous. There's so many positives to this new hair system. When I messaged him to tell him how good I thought it was, he told me that I was the first person in the UK to actually use this hair system. So with that, it got me thinking, wouldn't this be great to be able to get this out into other salons and sell it online and different things? But then I also knew that that's not my thing. I've got it's just not something that I know how to do. I wouldn't know where to begin. Xander tried helping me, but again, we didn't really come up with anything. And then I was invited to go to a new church, and it was at the new church where I met you, Clara.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what you did, or didn't know anything about you. But then I learned that you had designed and fitted ladies' hair systems. Again, it didn't really matter to me. It was just interesting that somebody else was in the church who was involved in hair systems. We spoke and decided to meet for a coffee. Well, you already know this, Clara.
Yes.
In the meantime, I'd been praying, and the Lord told me to ask you to go into business.
Yeah.
I hadn't been looking for another business as such. I wasn't. I was interested in how I could get this new system out, but I don't really think it was a new business that I wanted. But when you came round, the Lord had told me to ask you to go into business. So I did. And then everything just fell into place because all the bits that I can't do, wouldn't know where to begin, you already had set in place with your ladies' hair system.
Yeah.
Even the fact that I'd always wanted to teach hair systems, teach how to fit them, but the door would always be closed. I'd think about doing something and then find, I can't do that because of this or whatever. But you encouraged me that we can do it.
Yeah. I love how God orchestrates
all of it,
a story.
Yeah.
And it's like, even though the background that I come from is totally different to your background, when we bring them both together, they just work seamlessly. And I feel like, like we said before in the statement, your steps are ordered by the Lord, and literally they are ordered and orchestrated by the Lord. And I feel that when God brings people together, there's a difference than when you're walking the journey on your own.
Yeah.
And when you asked me the question, it just all seemed straightforward. It was just almost like, this is natural. This is a natural journey for us to go on. And so far it's been a journey where we've connected on so many different points and even come together on things that we never thought we would come together on. So yeah, I do believe, like you say, that when the Lord is in something, then it works. So now you are going to be training from 2026.
Yeah.
And I know that Freedom Hair Systems, for those that don't know, is primarily for hair salons and barbers to be able to provide the service to their clients. So who can train, and is training only available in the UK?
I think we definitely need people who have a good understanding of barbering skills. We will always be able to sharpen up any things that aren't really up to scratch. I think when I trained, I was taught how to fit hair systems, they showed me that you cut part of the hair system using a feather razor. I'd never used one, never used one. But I think because of the years of training that I've had, well, the years that I've been barbering, I could see that I could do those parts in part with scissors as well. So although I was taught one way, I've got my own way now of cutting the hair system. I'm talking about cutting the hair, not cutting the base. So I think if you've got a good knowledge of barbering, I will teach you how I do it, but then you may go away and do it your own way. In the meantime, though, if I think somebody needed just polishing up on clipper work or, some aspects of barbering, we can always help with that. We can always help with that. So I'd never say the main thing you need is some barbering skills, good barbering skills, yeah. And with regards to who and where from, we'll be teaching in the UK. But if someone was prepared to travel, anyone can train.
Yeah.
And it's just another opportunity for us to get Freedom Hair Systems further afield. Yeah.
Totally.
So, yeah.
Totally agree with that. It's been great talking to you, Jackie. And I've got just a couple more questions.
Okay.
Just a couple more minutes of your time. So what does freedom in a sense mean to you? I can imagine that before your whole experience that it had one meaning, but has that changed, and what does freedom now mean to you?
I realised that it's not going to be just Christians watching this clip. So myself, before I became a Christian, or as a very young Christian, when I'd hear people who'd say, walk in the freedom of Christ, or Jesus can set you free, I didn't have a clue. I'd no idea what people would be talking about. And I used to be searching for the joy of the Lord, or again, freedom, breaking the chains and what have you. I used to, every single day of my life, wake up in fear. If it wasn't fear, I'd wake up and think, how do I feel today? Am I anxious? Am I nervous? Am I happy? And I'd never just wake up and crack on with my day. Freedom now, I know what freedom is. I've lived through all like being in a prison in your mind. And now this healing that I've experienced, all the worry, all the anxiety, all the fear, it's just gone. It's gone. And it was Jesus who brought me through that with his supernatural healing. And freedom to me is being able to know that whatever we face, anything that we face, give it to God. Just let it go and give it to God. And he will set you free.
Wow.
He will set you free. And I am living proof.
So, Jackie, I have one more final question for you. And it's, if you could advise somebody, if you could give anybody advice, what would it be? And who would you give that advice to?
The advice that I would give is what people would always say to me. And I used to annoy me when people would say, try not to worry. But if I could give advice to anyone after living through what I lived through, my advice is, be anxious for nothing, but in all things, by supplication and prayer, give it to God. we're not meant to worry. We're not meant to worry about anything. We're meant to give it to God. And that is my advice to anybody. And I know that can annoy people, because people will say, how can I not worry? How can you not worry? Well, I understand it. But if you can just try not to and give it to the Lord in prayer, the Lord will help you. And that's my advice.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's been great having you on the show today. And I've been like so touched by a lot of the things that you've spoken about. So Jackie will be available to us, showing some different elements in barbering. And so if you're a hairdresser or if you're a barber, you're looking for more ways to get more deeper in your skill, or if you're interested in Freedom Hair Systems, then Jackie will be available on other shows where she's going to be demonstrating bit by bit her skills and how, because she's such a perfectionist in a lot of the things that she does. So her skills on how to do things and how to do things so that you can give your clients the best results.
Service and result.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for now we'll say goodbye, but we know we'll see you again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, partner.
Great team.
Thank you.